Hey everyone, this is Zero X Wing from runebase.org, and you're listening to the runebase.org podcast. On this show, we dive deep on all things THORChain, the THORChain ecosystem, and decentralized finance at large. On today's episode, I had the pleasure of hosting Jonny Chi. He's the Chief Narrative Officer of Chi Capital. And beyond that, he's a really deep thinker around philosophy, wellness, and spirituality as well. So anybody that follows him on Twitter is familiar with some of that angle that he brings into the THORChain community and to the Twitter community at large. We talked about his background. We talked about life and THORChain and crypto, and had some really aligned thoughts in terms of how much joy we both get from engaging in the THORChain ecosystem. And then we talk about Chi Capital, what it is, why it's different and unique, and what some of the value that it offers is. And then we close by talking about some of these aspects of spirituality and wellness as they pertain and overlap to crypto, and how you can stay sane working in the crypto space or engaging in the crypto space full time. We had a great conversation. Jonny, thank you so much for taking the time. Everybody, thank you so much for listening, and hope you enjoy the episode. Bye. Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Runebase podcast. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Jonny, also known as Runemir, the Chief Narrative Officer of Chi Capital. Jonny, thank you for joining me today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely a pleasure. We'll run through today. We'll talk a bit about your backstory and how you got into crypto. And we'll talk about THORChain and Chi Capital, the work that we're doing there. And then really, I think on Twitter, you're known for, and people that follow you know that you're not just all about crypto. There's really a philosophical and spiritual and wellness component to the content that you put out. And so we definitely want to dive into that towards the end here. But yeah, to start, it'd be great to hear a bit of your background. What's your backstory and how'd you get into crypto?
So I arrived in crypto space like most of the people, end of 2017. But actually, I think around 2015, I was already playing with the idea to buy some Bitcoin. I actually had arranged, through this localsbitcoin.com, you can arrange to meet somebody and to buy Bitcoin, so I had arrangement and the guy didn't show up, so unfortunately. So basically, I completely forgot about the whole Bitcoin story. But then in 2017, a single tweet from Michael Arrington, when he announced his fund, XRP fund. I don't know why, because I think before I didn't believe in Bitcoin because I thought, look, the government, all they have to do, the governments, is just to shut down the on and off fiat ramps. So I thought originally, I really didn't have that vision. I thought Bitcoin can be shut down very easily, That's why I didn't really take it seriously. But in 2017, when I heard about Ripple and, XRP, and there's a corporation, there's like a company doing it, and I was thinking like, okay, this is more official. Maybe this can work, So I kind of went for it, but then very quickly discovered that the crypto is much, much bigger than just Ripple, I kind of, in 2019, realized that I was on the wrong track. And then I started to research the DeFi space, yeah? Mm-hmm. So end of 2019, I discovered THORChain, that was the critical point for me. And at that point, I really didn't understand what DeFi is. I had no clue, what's that, I was learning all these keywords, just like completely new to me. And even in the summer of 2020, when the DeFi summer came, I was still kind of like half clueless about the whole space, When the Aave came and the synthetics, I was still kind of like, okay, what the heck is this, So there was a big learning curve for me, this period, 2019, 2020, And that's it. I'm now fully immersed into this DeFi idea, and I feel this is where my focus is, yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you, just for context, before you went full-time focus on crypto, what were you doing before?
Okay, basically around 20 years ago, I met my wife. She's a German. I'm originally Croatian. So we met in Croatia, and we were kind of on this spiritual seeking path. We were kind of going on different courses and Chinese medicine and all kinds of stuff. And then we decided to go to Germany and open a wellness, in Germany. So basically, it lasts, I think, 19 years. I'm running a wellness center. That's my bread and butter, let's say.
Oh, wow.
But I really love technology, so I was always kind of, reading news about Facebook, Twitter, and whatever is happening, So I was always very much interested in technology, but I didn't really have a chance to kind of implement or kind of participate in anything like that, I was just kind of just observer, basically. So now I have this opportunity to kind of explore my hobby, basically. Yeah.
That's fascinating. And I like that component too. I think that's one of the things that's great and fascinating about crypto and why so many people get involved is because it's a part of technology. It's a frontier of technology that you can get involved in. There's so many things, like you can believe that social networks or that AI or that robotics or machine learning are going to change the world. But for most normal people, there's really no way to just casually get involved with, a social network besides being on one, or machine learning or robotics. And so cryptocurrency and decentralized finance, it is participatory, and there's something beautiful about that. And so, yeah, you were interested in technology, and that makes sense. So you were following, I imagine, TechCrunch, Michael Arrington, thus you saw his tweet.
Exactly. TechCrunch since day one, basically, and Michael Arrington since day one. And that was my main entertainment, I would say.
Sure, yeah. While you're doing wellness as your main thing, you're looking at TechCrunch and maybe Hacker News and stuff, evenings and weekends and throughout the day.
But the funny thing is that while I was reading this news about technology and people investing, I never even thought about the idea that I can invest in these companies. It was so beyond, like you can buy Facebook shares or Twitter shares. I didn't even have idea about doing that. It was so far, and now look at us, just buying synthetic stocks, on Mirror. It's just incredible.
Yeah. No, I think that accessibility, when I try and explain the virtues and the values of cryptocurrencies and decentralized finance to especially Westerners like Americans, we take for granted a lot of the values, a lot of the benefits that we have because we don't know any better. We don't know any different from it. So we take for granted a strong local currency, robust financial services and infrastructure, relatively strong rule of law and governing bodies, a court system. And we also take for granted access to world-class investments like the Facebooks, Apples, and Googles of the world. But that's not accessible to everybody around the world. And now with decentralized finance, it's nascent, but the seed is there and it's sprouting. Anybody with Ethereum now can get access to synthetic assets, world-class stable currencies. That's a world-changing phenomenon that's happening now.
What really changed my mind around the whole thing is this COVID situation and the whole drama. And basically, I just realized how weak the whole economy is. It just, the whole thing collapsed in a couple of months, basically. And I felt there's this huge need for people to build something which runs parallel from this existing system, because this existing system, I couldn't see that before, but now I can see it clearly. It's completely rotten. It's really rotten. It's like there's absolutely nothing to save. We have to build a complete new system from scratch, and I couldn't see that before 2020, but this COVID situation and how the governments reacted to it and all this money printing, I just really feel this is, we need this. We desperately need this.
Yeah. I think maybe there's analogs and there's relics of traditional finance and centralized finance to carry over, to learn from the structures and the models and then carry over into a new paradigm. And obviously that we need to save the people. But other than that, I think that the infrastructure itself, the technology, banks are still running on cobalt and like spit and duct tape and glue, so it's like there's a lot to improve there. I want to come back to something you mentioned. You and I connected through Twitter and Chi Capital. So we'll get to that. But leading up to that, In 2019, you first saw and came around or stumbled upon THORChain. Do you remember what your first contact with THORChain was like? Like, how did you first hear about it? What was your initial reaction?
It was a strange thing. I remember exactly the day. I was sitting at home and I had around $260 on Binance DEX. And I said to myself, okay, I'm going to buy something, And
Daddy's going shopping.
At the same time, I was chatting with two different people. I really can't remember who was that. Okay, and one was maybe on Discord, and second one was on Twitter. And the one guy on the Discord was telling me about THORChain, and I was already kind of going on the Binance DEX and already buying $260 worth of THORChain. It was like 1 cent, 1.3 cents, or something like that. At the same time, somebody else was pitching me, if you remember this, it's called Lithium, LIT token.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was pitching me that. I said, wow, I have $260. Let's split in two, So I bought $130 worth of THORChain and $130 worth of this LIT. And that's how I start, basically. And at one point, these $130 were worth, I don't know, over $100,000 at one point. It was times 500. Anyway, that was beginning, and then later I started to buy more. The big support for me was if you know Batman Crypto guy from Twitter, and he has his
Crypto's
own
Batman.
Crypto's Batman, yeah. He has his own Telegram group, and they really kind of, they didn't push it on me, but they were really like very inspired by the whole thing, and I was just kind of sucking all the whole atmosphere. I just felt, oh my God, this is really something different, something new. And then just slowly I start to build this conviction and confidence. Beginning, I can't say that I understood much. It was like, okay, cross-chain, I understand we need that, but whether it's going to work or not, I had no idea, But I was kind of really impressed with the community. Community was very, very small. Literally there were like maybe on the whole Twitter, maybe 30 people who were kind of like tweeting about it constantly. So it was very small community, but very driven, very driven. And so what really got me was because I don't have enough technical knowledge or capabilities to analyze project or code or white paper or anything like that. The only thing I can analyze is the community, and the narrative, And that's the second thing. The narrative which was coming from a THORChain Twitter account, whoever is behind, was simply superb. It was really good narrative, really well written, and with confidence. So these two things, really got me.
Yeah, I believe it. THORChain has those components. First, I want you touch on community, and then we'll talk about narrative. With community, who were do you remember some of these early names, like 30 people tweeting about it? Does anybody stand out to you as like in memory?
Yeah, it was Crypto's Batman, and then it was also Miho Brains, the guy. He built THORChain.org, I think. It was mostly two of them, plus a couple of more individuals from Crypto's Batman group. Can't remember the names now. It was literally like 5-6 people kind of constantly pushing, It was very, very small, It was fun. It got much, much bigger, and it's now turning into like a serious project. It was always a serious project, and it got much, much bigger, and it's still fun.
It really is. I made the transition from, I got involved in THORChain in 2018 as a, communications and marketing agency. And so they hired us. And so it was one of a few projects that we were working on at the time. And then over the last 3-4 years since then, I've been following along, but I still had my other businesses to run. And so I wasn't really able to go in full time. And then earlier this year, I was able to kind of hire myself out of my previous businesses and start to go full time on THORChain and starting with on Twitter, and then from creating 0x Wing, the Twitter account very recently, to Runebase. And now I get to do Runebase full time. And it's such a joy, honestly. Like it's so much fun. I get to have conversations like this, connect with people like you on calls like this, in Discords, in Telegram, on Twitter. And I feel like I'm playing all day, and it's such a fun community to be a part of.
This is the thing, I can just jump in. What THORChain really gave me is freedom. Suddenly I was free. I could, I had enough. I made enough money that I could, I'm not a rich guy, but, I could literally stop doing business, and I could just enjoy the whole process, And so every time when I think about THORChain and when I interact with THORChain, I'm just thinking freedom, That's, for me, it's a representation of freedom.
I love that.
Not just because I was personally, got freed by it, but its mission is freedom for everybody, for everybody involved.
Yeah, I love that. And, I'll add on to that as well. And I think we could say this broadly, we can say this about THORChain, and then broadly about decentralized finance and even Bitcoin, cryptocurrency in general. And it's, there's the financial and economic component of it, which is undeniable, obviously. But there's so many other ways in which you can be interested and engaged by cryptocurrencies, from an intellectual standpoint, to a philosophical standpoint, to a social standpoint, like the good that it can do for the world as a democratizing force for access and inclusion, removing borders, removing like friction for value transfer and money transfer across borders is going to be a great inclusive force. And then if you're intellectually curious about technology and about society, like the excitement, the freedom to be able to pursue these interests in this really rich ecosystem that is crypto. It's a joy if you find yourself in it, if you're lucky enough to find yourself in it. I don't think the intellectual side of it is for everyone necessarily, but it's there for you if you want it. I think that's why it's so captivating.
I joined Twitter in, I think, 2008. And basically from 2008 until 2017, which is almost 10 years, I was literally tweeting into the void, into the nothingness.
Yes.
There's like
yes, I can relate. Oh my God, yeah.
You will get like a one like in a week, I had a couple of people who kind of like interacting with me, but I don't know why. I kept going back to that page, to the Twitter, and reading about the technology. It was really like just one-way street, it's just like there's no communication.
Yes, 100%.
But, you could learn a lot of fun stuff and about politics. I'm also interested in politics and technology and whatever. And but literally it was 10 years of talking to the void, and then suddenly first the Ripple community, then the THORChain community, and now the lunatics. And it's just crazy, you just can't imagine, how much more fun is when you when you're part of something which is bigger than you. And that's what I was always looking for, to be part of something that has a goal which is beyond you. What THORChain is doing, or any of these projects, is like I can only participate with my little bit. I can do a little bit of what is my expertise, but that's only like 0.0001% of what they actually need. But it doesn't matter. We all give what we can. We all give what we can, and then you see how it grows. Like seeing THORChain, from 2009 to now. It's just amazing, to see how it developed, and to be part of that. It's a great feeling. Yeah.
Oh man, you're speaking to my soul right now. There's something I've always had a bias towards creation, being a net producer in the world. Like obviously consumption, like you and I started on Twitter, we were content consumers, and we're always content consumers, but for certain kinds of people, that's just not enough. And you want to contribute back to the pool of information and knowledge and value that you're drinking from. And it's fortunate to, find a place where you can be a part of that conversation, active participant, and not just a passive listener. And yeah, with crypto, it's obviously an extremely technical fueled, but it sounds like, you and I both are extremely involved now, and neither of us are engineers. Neither of us are technical.
No.
And there is a role for us.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about program. I mean, I'm still managing a couple of projects which are kind of like, through my wellness company, we created some apps. There's one app for relaxation. I mean, I don't want to advertise anything like that. But I do have experience of managing projects, building technical stuff. But personally, I don't have any coding experience or anything like that. But I have a good feeling of kind of directing people, to a certain way, and basically taking ideas out of your brain and, and making them real. So I do have a building experience, yeah, and that helps, But I'm not designer. I'm not programmer. I don't have any specific skill. If you ask me a specific skill, I will tell you I have zero. I have none. I just have a collection of experiences. I mean, that's pretty much it,
100%. I can relate. My background has been in software even before crypto, like building software businesses, but I've always done it as a non-technical, like non-engineer. And I've come from the side of, creating the vision, rallying people around it. I do a lot of like UI, UX design, marketing and sales. And a lot of that is, I carry that involvement into how I'm engaged with THORChain now, for example, like with Runebase, and I can create value and add value to the community despite, not being technical. And I think that's something I'd like to impress on people. Yeah.
The thing is, it's very important, you can build something extremely useful and advanced, and you can use the best technology, but if you are unable to communicate it, it's pointless. Nobody will buy it, And my big focus with the THORChain, I don't know whether I'm doing that consciously or not consciously, but I'm always trying to take a complex system and simplify it, and I take Twitter, that single tweet, as a challenge, how you can take a complex concept and put it in the single tweet that a normal person who they don't know anything about anything, they can understand it, and this is the part which I really enjoy, You take the complex part and you simplify it, because I think this is what we need if we want to make that step further, to get the mainstream people. And, for example, I'm helping my brother often to do this DeFi stuff. For example, put the liquidity on THORChain, and I have to lead him, every time we do the Zoom, he's still not able to do by himself, so I have to do with him. And even after 6 months, he's still not, I wouldn't say capable, he's just a little bit afraid to add or remove liquidity from a THORChain. Basically, the old one, the BEP swap, yeah. And I'm thinking this is definitely a user interface problem. If after 6 months he's still not confident to actually use the product, even after I explain him everything, he is still not able to use it, to do it. But on the other side, he's using products like a Mirror or Anchor without my help. He learned it very quickly. So you can see how the user interface is extremely important if you want to get the mainstream people. Because when I show somebody a THORChain, that original website, they're just like, they have no idea what to do there. They have absolutely no clue, While for example, with the Uniswap, it's kind of like obvious. Okay, if I have Ethereum, I can swap it into USDT. It's kind of like logical thing to do, and it's only one chain, so it's much easier. Anyway, the THORChain is extremely complex, and the protocol itself is extremely complex and extremely valuable, but you have to bring it to a certain simplicity, It has to be simple for end user, and we are still not there,
I could not agree more. And that was even a barrier for me. I didn't understand. I'm a slow learner with this stuff, to be honest. And it takes me a few interactions and contacts with each of these mental models and primitives in order to start to understand them in a meaningful way. But I realized actually that while the platform, while THORChain, it can be complicated, the end benefit to the user, really what the user interacts with at the end of the day, it really can be simplified. And that's the whole purpose of Runebase broadly. My hunch is that folks like your brother who have some sort of mental block around liquidity providing, it probably comes from, well, the user experience is one thing, but also just the mental model. What am I putting money into here? Where are these funds going and how is it generating yield? And what are the implications of that? And so, through some very simple illustrations, we'll be simplifying the process of what it means to be a liquidity provider. But it's a good effort, and I applaud you for bringing your brother along with you.
There's another psychological issue I would say here. If you deal with Ethereum liquidity pools, kind of psychologically it's easier because you are dealing with only one chain. You have all your assets there. They are listed. Okay, I have a USDT, I have Ethereum, I have Uni or whatever, but when you interact with the THORChain, now with the multiple chains, it gets really mentally tricky, because you have different chains, and then you have. I know what's happening theoretically, but imagine a new person, trying to understand. Okay, I have Ethereum chain. I have a Thor on the THORChain. I have something on the Binance DEX or whatever. And I have to do a pool with them, and how you handle that? You have different addresses, I understand theoretically, but this is a huge step from a Uniswap to THORChain multi-chain. Psychologically, this is a huge barrier. That's why I complained today a little bit on Twitter about user interface, because I think it's a weak point at the moment. Because I'm very confident about the team, about the technical stuff, yes, about the protocol itself. What I see, they are very capable. There's absolutely, I don't lose any minute of sleep because of that, But when I see those end user apps and services, like, oh my God, like I still didn't transfer my funds from Binance DEX to the new protocol or whatever. I still didn't do that. My excuse is I'm waiting for a Ledger app, but actually I'm just not happy to use it. I'm just not. It's not like I don't have a confidence.
Not there yet.
It just I don't like using something which is not easy to use. When I go on a Uniswap or some other, like a mirror, I actually enjoy just watching that page, just looking at it. So this part where you actually enjoy interacting with the protocol, and this is the part which is still missing on THORChain, and it's very important.
Yeah, and part of the beauty of what's evolving here is that THORChain itself, nobody interacts with. No user is interacting with THORChain directly. Yeah. They're interacting with the interfaces that interact with THORChain. And we're actually at the beginning of a major growth period of like these different exchanges and interfaces and wallets. And there's a decent amount of competition brewing there already. And between I think some people are going to be focused on more, or some interfaces will be focused on more technical, more trader focused interfaces. Some will be working to simplify like broker and sweep. And then, Thor wallet, Dragon's DEX are all in the pipeline as well. So, and they're going to compete with one another to simplify. And so the innovation is going to happen at the interface level. And I think that's going to lead to a lot more simplification. I think that the user is going to win here very shortly as all this competition heats up. Yeah. We'll get there. I was checking today. I was checking like 6-7 different these interfaces, and you can really see that
They are working on it, and we will have a couple of strong winners. I have no problem. I'm just kind of stating the current situation, and what could stop somebody like my brother to interact. That's what we have. That's why when you see these obstacles and when you remove them, you can easily see THORChain going times 10 or times 100. Because at the moment it's like a raw diamond. It's like something you just took out of the earth, and it's like you still have to wash it, you have to cut it, you have to polish it. There's so much work to be done. So we are really, really, really early. Definitely
100%. I couldn't agree more. And that's part of what's so exciting about it too. This is great. I want to shift gears here a bit and provide some context really quickly before talking about Chi Capital. So I got more re-engaged in the THORChain community online over the course of the last 3 to 6 months, like turn of the year, 2021. And when I did, I started to notice on Twitter, a handful of key influencers, if you will, or key community members, I'll say, inside the THORChain community. And these were people like yourself, Archon, Bitcoin Sage, Thor Lady, and others. And the Coleslaw, how could I forget? And I started to notice that they all had something in common, and that was Chi Capital. And I said, oh, interesting. All these guys are hanging out here. And that's how you and I came to connect through Thorstarter and the Thorstarter deal. And I came to connect with you and the Chi Capital team and eventually join your ranks. Thank you so much. I got to sneak in. The back door was left open. So yeah, I'd love to hear, first, like, what is Chi Capital? If you could define it and then we can talk a bit about it.
Yeah. So I was in that Ripple Discord in 2017 and 18. And it was me and a couple of other guys just researching alts, altcoins. And then we realized, okay, we need more space. We need more channels and everything so we can organize ourselves better. So I think, end of 2020, we decided to start a new Discord server. And it was basically me and then Sent Chi. I think that's how he calls himself now. We were kind of like a founding fathers, let's say. We invited a couple of guys from an old Ripple server, and then we connected with the Bitcoin Sage and Archon, and then the Thor Lady came. And basically, when we got, and also I can't forget Tom Copper or something like that.
Yeah.
Copera. I mean, he also brought so much energy, but they all brought something different. I mean, Thor Lady. I mean, she's just like, the thing is, I'm not a corporate or business guy. I'm not at all. I don't know what I am. I have no idea what I am. But I'm not from that world. I'm running a business, but I'm not. I don't see myself as a business person, And then when I see people like Bitcoin Sage and Tom Copera and the Thor Lady and Archon, they all have this corporate experience, And when I see them how they work, they brought the whole idea of this Discord group to a whole new level, because on a level which I couldn't bring before, because I don't have this kind of way of, this kind of corporate thinking of, making connection and making a deal and, talking with this guy, talking with that guy. I was just like, I mean, for me and for Sent, my colleague, partner in crime, it was all about, let's find another shitcoin and just flip it. We're going to buy another shitcoin. It's just going from one to another. And then eventually you stumble on something which is really good and we kind of keep it. But it was just like a very simple process of just discovering coins, But these guys, these 4 or 5 guys, I hope I didn't miss some of them, they brought this really strong business and corporate energy and this kind of language, the language of when you make a deal and I don't have that at all. That's not part of my culture or more part of my education, because I'm not, I don't have that. So they brought the whole thing to another level, and suddenly it's just like from a group of couple of shitcoin flippers, we had this like a semi-corporate structure, but in a very wild crypto way, and
Yes.
and
Yeah,
then we
100%.
said, okay, let's just let's build a brand on top of this, and then maybe we can attract some deals like that, So basically, we just came up with the name and the logo, and the whole thing took off. But I can tell you that it's not like it was my vision, not at all. If you ask me, I would still flip shitcoin with Sane, because that's the only thing I know.
That's relatable. Yeah. My entry point into crypto, besides using Bitcoin initially as a remittance, I was remitting money back to Vietnam. But then in 2017, I started playing what I called the shitcoin lottery. And it was like, back then it was, when the bull market was popping off the latter month or two of 2017, it was like any given day, one altcoin would go 20 to 30x. And it was just about like, how can I get on that 20, 30x, place that bet. So let me ask you this, actually, can you define it? What is Chi Capital?
It's originally, when I thought about it, it's a platform for people, because I realized that in this group, we had a group of 30, 40 people, and they all have different abilities. They all have things which, for example, I don't have. I can see clearly that somebody has ability which I don't have. So it's a platform to help others express their creativity. So it doesn't matter if it's writing, analyzing, deal making, anything related to crypto. So and we have a very loose rules. We just let everybody discuss whatever they want, and if somebody has idea, if they can execute idea, it's fine. So everything is very loose, but I just personally, I want to inspire everybody to use their creativity, to use their whatever they're good at, and they all have very unique skills. And personally, I enjoy that, because this is the part. Before crypto, I was building apps with other people. I really enjoy when I can hire a good designer, a good programmer, and then I have a couple of ideas, and they can execute like really easily. And I love that people can do these things. I have no idea how to do it, so I love the idea that I can come in Discord and maybe throw some idea or whatever, and people can jump on it and then make it happen. It's just amazing, and I just love this creative process.
Yeah, and so from my experience engaging with Chi Capital, like you said, it's a group of maybe around 40 really smart, creative people that are all obviously interested in and investing in, and either like working in, or at least spending time in the crypto community. And there's people from developers to content creators to traders and other entrepreneurs and builders. And it's rallies primarily around a private Discord. And there's, we shared deals. And one of the things that I love seeing happen now, and this is how I got involved bringing the Thorstarter deal to Chi Capital, is beyond just offering and like pulling resources and then making an investment into a project, it comes with a level of support. And that can include things like content creation, community management. Shout out to Jane Butterfly, the all-star community manager across several different projects in THORChain. She's a member as well.
At this point. She's running it.
She's running THORChain for sure. Yeah. She's really, just powering the whole thing. And so, it's a community of people who are contributing to these projects as well. And that's a really nice value add to be a part of too.
Yeah. It's really nice to see how, when you put together, for me, the main job, I'm not bossing anybody there. I'm not trying to boss. I just let them do whatever they want. But I want to keep, my main aim is to keep this culture of cooperation, a culture of cooperation. And I don't like seeing any kind of toxic behavior. That's why we kept the group very small, because then we can really, we know each other. We can I can get familiar with every single member. If you have 200-300 people there, and there's no way I can kind of like figure out, who is who. But up to 40 people, it's possible to keep the culture together, and this core idea, of cooperation. And for me, this is kind of like a main job to maintain that spirit, and everything else, any kind of real work, I just let them do whatever they want.
Very cool. I think, before Chi Capital, I was a part of, and still technically am a part of the Metacartel DAO.
Okay.
And it's a DAO. It's an organization of people from all over the world who pool their capital together into this DAO. And then they can vote on how to allocate that capital, where to invest. In this case, they have grants for the Ethereum ecosystem. And it occurs to me that there's a lot of similarities here between Chi Capital and Metacartel DAO. And I imagine that it might only be a matter of time before Chi Capital starts playing around with the DAO structure.
We are not that organized. It's at the moment. Everything is pretty much random.
Chaos.
Except
Anarchy.
when we did this deal with the very chaotic. I mean, okay, we did this deal with the Thor swap and the Thorstarter. So that was fairly organized, but everything else is quite chaotic. And so personally, I'm not so keen to go into that kind of like corporate direction, but if that's where everybody else wants to go, I will support them. My personal goal is always to, I need my time to research other stuff beyond crypto. I can't just do crypto 24/7. It is fun thing to do, but on the end of the day, I feel exhausted and kind of like an empty shell, because you're constantly just like, everything is just digital, So that's why I like, this health and wellness part of my business and what I'm doing with my wife, because that keeps me grounded, that keeps me in contact with the real client. I'm also doing some teaching, for example, I learned Chinese astrology, for example. There's not so many people know about that. And some teaching every week, on Zoom. So for me, it's very important to keep that part of my life active as well, so I can't really put myself fully into crypto. It's very attractive, but I don't think, in my case, I don't think it's healthy to be constantly engaged only into some kind of digital activities, So I'm trying to kind of keep the balance, which is very difficult, but that's my goal. Yeah.
I love that. And let's take that as an opportunity to segue into, this last section here where, we mentioned at the top of the call that beyond just crypto, your followers will know you for being also very thoughtful when it comes to spirituality, wellness, and philosophy more broadly. And so, yeah. And before this, you ran a wellness clinic for 19, 20 years, you mentioned. And so something you mentioned.
Still running.
Still going. Maybe 20 years running now or 19 years running now?
From 2003. Okay, 18 years.
There you go. And so something you told me earlier is that, technology is moving in a direction of, 24/7 always on, and that you don't think a lot of people are ready. Can you talk about that? What do you see happening, and what do you see as the approach that's a healthy approach to this emergence, this phenomenon, this emergent phenomenon?
Yeah, this is a big topic. And the first problem is information overload. I think that most humans are actually not even built to absorb so much information as we are doing now. So information overload is a huge problem. And but you can see even with the crypto, when you're trying to research, you just realize basically that we are limited. We just can't learn enough. It's just like there's so much information that at one point you just give up. Like, okay, this that blockchain Cardano, whatever. It's not like I think Cardano is a shitty project. I just don't have a mental capacity anymore to even look at it. It's just I don't have a capacity anymore. Or there's this AVAX, I think, blockchain, and we are basically hitting the wall of how much information we can take. And even the top investors, they have this problem. They have to draw a line and say, look, we can't go further than that, And but of course, if you come with this mindset, more I know, better my investment will be. But then you're just kind of constantly greedy for information. You're gonna just end up completely confused, completely confused. So I kind of took the step back and I said, okay, I can focus on 2-3 things. For example, I can focus on THORChain, I can focus on Terra, and recently this OlympusDAO project. And I kind of like, okay, I'm gonna keep my focus on that because that's the amount of information which I can still handle, because everything else I can't, So now the problem is that people get easily overwhelmed and they think they should have a position in everything, and buy any kind of token, and that they just drive themselves crazy, But even beyond crypto, I think that the digital world is taking over. All the jobs are going digital, remote, and also there's a digital addiction problem. We are addicted to these gadgets. I'm checking Twitter. I can't even spell the number. How many times I open Twitter, per day, and I'm actually kind of hiding that information from myself that that I'm using Twitter that much.
Yeah,
and I'm kind of trying to explain to myself, okay, I have to do this because this is the part of the investment business. I have to be informed. But then maybe I'm just fooling myself, And let's say that I'm a person who is pretty much in control of my behavior, fairly in control. But then you have masses of people who are not able to control themselves, and they get completely swooped by these digital activities or whatever, and it's often has nothing to do with their business or making money or even informing themselves. It's just browsing internet for rubbish basically all day long, and I think it's going to be a huge problem. And that's why also in one way I think that crypto will solve many problems, but it will also create a new set of problems, and I'm trying to see those signals on time and warn people on time. For example, I don't invest in game tokens. For example, I know they are very lucrative. I know they are very profitable, but I don't like online games because I don't know. I kind of find it pointless. It's just basically. It kind of like takes your consciousness away, but you don't get anything back for that. I mean, except some, digital points or whatever, So, I came to a situation where I can choose where I want to put my energy, my money, So, if I see a good gaming platform, I'm going to skip it because I just don't believe in that industry. I don't believe it's a beneficiary for people on the long run, So, of course, many people will, not agree with this, but this is just my opinion. I'm trying to kind of follow my heart, when it comes to investments. I'm trying to invest something which is useful. For example, THORChain. I like THORChain because it's something you put money in and then you forget about it.
Yes.
And then you're gonna come on end of the month and take some profits out and then use those profits to buy something. Maybe you're gonna build a house or you're gonna buy a car or it doesn't matter what, But I'm not gonna spend 30 days looking at a screen doing something online to get that money. No, I'm gonna live my life.
Yep.
And that's why I said THORChain is freedom. I lock it in, I forget about it. And whether I'm gonna make 1% this month or 3% this month, it just doesn't matter. Who cares? It gives me freedom. That's for me most important.
Some of the practices, because I, like you, I'm very focused on my wellness and my health while being involved in crypto. And crypto can be very manic. If you're checking prices, if you are always on, there's always something happening on Twitter, and there's always some drama happening or some sort of issue arising or some sort of ecstatic news breaking and all-time highs and this and that. And so for my sanity, I've created a framework for engaging in the space that's working for me, and I can maintain my sanity. Allows me to work in the space, have fun with it, but maintaining my sanity. And it includes things like not checking prices. I don't have a portfolio tracker on my phone, and I hide my crypto wallet apps and everything through an obscure folder on my back screen. Very rarely checking prices. I'm also focusing my energy and efforts very much on the THORChain ecosystem. I have a few bets placed outside of it, mainly, through the THORChain community. There's a lot of overlap with things like the Terra ecosystem, and also like Ohm, and so I'm, I am placing a few other bets, but like really my energy is focused on this one ecosystem, and then getting comfortable with being uninformed about what's happening around it. There's a human, I think it's a primal or biological desire to gorge and feast when there's something sweet in your, on your plate, like the berry, you get the berry tree and it's sweet, and then you're just like, you eat the whole berry tree. And I think that like kind of dopamine or whatever that's triggered when you're engaging on Twitter and keeping up with everything that's happening in DeFi and NFTs and government regulation and all this stuff. And it's just so much sugary snacks for the mind. And I just have come at peace with just focusing on one thing that I know to be solid and true and good, and then getting comfortable with being uninformed about the rest. And I think those are three things that I could point to that have helped me stay sane as I navigate a full time.
There's a lot of conflict and drama going on in Twitter. And it's very easy to kind of go into it and choose side and then just, fight the other side. And I mean, I did that, many times before, but I'm trying to avoid it because, when there's a conflict between two sides, we don't really have the whole story. We only have like a very small part of the story, whatever is happening, And then we make this decision to kind of side with one side or whatever, and then we go into battle. Just total waste of time and energy, total waste of time and energy.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to stay away from conflicts and drama and everything. It's very, very, as you said, it's very attractive to go into it because it's fun, It's fun to trash somebody.
That's primal.
Who is already on the floor. But I'm trying more and more to kind of not do that. To just stay in the middle.
And something else I'm working to do is, despite my focus and obviously my financial interest in THORChain, I want to remind myself, you see the Bitcoin maximalism and you see how frankly foolish a lot of it is. People who look down their nose at literally anything else in the industry just because it's not Bitcoin, which is very short-sighted and small-minded. And I try to remind myself not to become that with THORChain. Despite my interest and passion and engagement with THORChain recognize that the space is big and there's room for alternatives. THORChain, it seems to be, in the lead now for this type of platform, but there's other competitors run by great, smart teams that are coming up as well. And then anything can happen, like the pace of innovation in crypto and DeFi is so fast that, something could come out like it's hard to imagine what it would be, but that could change the game entirely to where something like THORChain won't even be necessary anymore. So I try to stay open-minded despite my financial incentives to be anything but right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine something that will come and challenge THORChain, and that will come, I don't know in which shape and form it will come. And it's going to be a huge test for the community because at the moment we still don't have a real test. At the moment the THORChain is still leading in this game, in this multi-chain game. And but one day somebody will show up with something which is equally good, or maybe better story or better narrative or something, and how the community will react, that's a big question,
Yeah.
And,
I
think it's important to educate everybody to have this open mind. And luckily the THORChain, the core idea of THORChain is that anybody can play there. If you have a chain, you just build a bridge and you are there. So that's the part which really kind of helps us to have open mind. But it's very difficult if you are kind of like a single chain, focus on a single chain. It's very easy to see others as enemies.
Yes.
But I think this is the part which THORChain really kind of they nailed it from beginning by just being open to any kind of competition. Anybody can join. Anybody can benefit, and so we do have a good base as a community, but we don't know what's going to be in the future, and what kind of challenges we'll have.
I've learned that from THORChain. In my previous business, I was always awkward and had awkward relationships with my competitors. And watching THORChain on Twitter, they're congratulating folks like Chainflip or SIFChain or others, whenever there's a celebration, something to celebrate, something they're shipping something or they're announcing something. And THORChain really, really embraces this notion of like, it's a big market. There's room for many entrants and there's many different approaches. And that's something that I've learned to carry on and to try and not to let my competitive instincts take over and come from a place of abundance.
I think this was if I would point out the most important aspect of THORChain, it's exactly that, this openness, let competitors just join the game, just open your arms and just let them in, and I think this is the essence, and this is why this community is on a different level.
Agreed. If someone was interested in engaging with the community on THORChain, someone is just hearing about it for the first time, maybe they heard about it in a talk or a podcast, how would you recommend them getting started engaging with the community?
Yeah, this is always a little bit a problem. People often ask me, how to provide liquidity, and I always kind of like, actually, I have no idea how you start with this.
Well, now they can go to runebase.org and go to the guides.
Yeah, that's a good. And also the other one is this LP University Discord channel. You know them?
Yes. Yeah, they're great.
And I think there's a website as well.
Yep, 100%.
And yeah, I still feel like we are missing one page, one website where you can kind of like really simplify the whole process, what you do, where you get the wallet and where you get the coins, like literally like for dumbos, and I'm not sure we have that. Yeah,
that's what we're working on now. We're trying to create that one resource where people can go learn what THORChain is, why it's valuable, and then how they can use the system, how they can use it. So keep your eyes peeled at Runebase for that. And of course, I got to give a shout out again, as you mentioned, Liquidity Provider University. It's a Discord chat. They've got a great map for how to navigate it. And there's great content in there and great people to help answer your questions. And they've exceptional moderators too. So,
everybody learns differently. Some people, they like to learn through Discord channels. Some people, they like to learn through Telegrams, asking direct questions. Some people like to see a nice, flashy website. So, we have to cover all different angles because everybody's learning in a different way, So, but anyway, when you see, I think in 5 years, we're going to realize how early this whole thing is, at the moment. The protocol is barely finished. It's not finished. The protocol is still like raw. We don't have proper user interface. We still have caps, It's just like, now put yourself 5 years ahead. It's gonna be amazing, you're gonna have so many wallets, so many not protocols, websites and services or whatever. So I always try to, I'm trying not to be too critical about the current situation because it's a process. It's a process where we have to go through that and we have to learn and we have to build and we have to explain and. But when you see, from 2 years ago now, this is a huge, huge progress. You just can't compare.
Yeah, 100%. So, I'm excited to see that future and help create that future here alongside of you. Jonny, this has been a fantastic conversation. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to speak with me.
Okay, thank you.
Real quick, where can listeners go to find you online, on Twitter, and also to learn more about Chi Capital?
Well, Twitter is the best. So Jonny, Jonny, how you say this? It's not hyphen. And then Chi, dash. Yeah. Sorry, my English is not my first language. So and chicapital.org. That's a website. And you can also find my profile there and everything. And everybody else, of course. Yeah. And also they should follow Chi Capital Twitter account as well.
Awesome. And we will have links to that in the description below. Jonny, thank you again. Appreciate you. It's a pleasure to be learning and to be building alongside you and looking forward to doing that for weeks, months, and years to come.
Okay. And thank you and see you around. Yeah.